And now let's talk about the global politics, world trends, and the Ukrainian agenda in all the processes with our expert, Yuriy Fizer, our global news editor. Nice to see you, Yuriy.
Nice to see you too, Vladimir.
So how was the last week?
Well, I would say this was quite a busy week with another busy week ahead. Russia continues to accuse West, with President Putin saying Western leaders want to weaken, divide and even destroy his country. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan convinced the Kremlin leadership to resume its participation in the UN-backed grain deal. Iran finally admitted it was selling its drones to Russia. North Korea strongly denied information that it has sold Russia its artillery munitions, and midterm elections to the US Congress.
Oh, that's cool. And what about the elections in the United States of America?
Well, Americans on Tuesday cast their final ballots in closely fought elections that will determine whether Republicans win control of Congress. And if so, it would give them the power to block much of President Joe Biden's initiatives in the next 2 years. These elections are very important for Ukraine because recently some members of the Republican Party said it was necessary for GOP to shorten or even stop sending security and financial assistance to Ukraine. For example, this is what a member of the US House of Representatives, Marjorie Taylor Greene, said last week.
Only border they care about is Ukraine, not America's southern border. Under Republicans, not another penny will go to Ukraine. Our country comes first.
Oh, this is really painful to hear.
It's quite frightening to hear such statements, especially for us, people living in Ukraine, because we rely on these supplies. Our soldiers rely on these supplies in order to gain victories on the front lines. Nevertheless, most of Western political analysts are convinced that even if Republicans gain control in the US Congress, Ukraine will still have the bipartisan support from the United States of America. Just listen what Ian Bremmer, Eurasia president and founder, said.
If you talk to both Republicans and Democrats on the Hill, there is an overwhelmingly strong level of support for Ukraine and anger at Russia. You can find some progressive Democrats that are unhappy about the amount of money that's being spent. You can find some MAGA Republicans that will say the same thing. But when I look at 2023, between the extension of the existing Lend-Lease policy that Biden has been using to get the Ukrainians more military material, I look at how much money can be allocated from the Congress that is in place right now for the year of 2023, as well as the willingness of the Republicans that will be in office in what will almost certainly be a Republican-led House. I just don't see that shift very much.
So the willingness to support is still strong as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is. But this is what experts say. But let us listen to what people from Joe Biden's administration said. For example, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor to the President of the United States of America.
I actually believe that, notwithstanding, again, comments that certain people have made, I believe there still is strong support on the Hill for delivering the necessary resources to Ukraine. And I think you will not see these kinds of doomsday scenarios that the purse strings will be pulled shut and it's over. I just simply reject that. I don't think our analysis of where the members are in both the House and the Senate bear that out. And some of the strongest voices with respect to support for Ukraine are on the Republican side. Some of the strongest are on the Democratic side. And yes, there may be an increasing number of voices that raise questions, but it will still be a very distinct minority.
So I really hope we will have this support. And let us hear what Press Secretary of White House, Karine Jean-Pierre, said.
We are confident that the United States support for Ukraine will be unflinching and unwavering. That's what we believe, and that's how we see this going forward. You saw Jake Sullivan say the very same thing while he was in Kyiv on Monday and reiterated the United States will continue to support Ukraine across a range of areas, whether it's security assistance, economic assistance, or human rights assistance. Members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, have have been clear about our enduring support for Ukraine. And under any scenario, to your point, to your question, President Biden is committed to work in a bipartisan fashion.
So, Volodymyr, I really hope that notwithstanding the election results, we will have the support from the United States of America and especially from the United States Congress. I will talk more about this with my guest, Yuriy Fizer, professor of Manhattan College, New York. Mr. Fizer, greetings and thank you for joining us today.
Greetings from New York and greetings to everybody who is watching. Thank you very much for having me.
So my first question to you is as follows. Did Republicans gain the control in U.S. Congress, at least from what we know now?
Well, the Republicans are on the way to get control over the House of Representatives. The results are not known yet, the final results, but they're on the pretty clear way to get the control. But the results are quite different from those which were expected, because practically all observers, including myself, all people expected that Republicans will get a very significant majority. They did not get it. So likely they will have a majority, but very narrow majority, just a few seats. And this changes many things very drastically, because this is a big loss for former President Trump and for his influence in Republican Party, because Republicans built their campaign mostly on Trump's slogans. Trump had many candidates whom not only he endorsed, but actually he found these candidates. And many of these candidates, they lost their election to House. And because of that, the influence of far-right wing of the Republican Party may go down now. And this is very good for Ukraine, because far-right wing in the Republican Party, they are continuously against any support for Ukraine. And if their influence goes down, this really will be very good. And President Biden, yesterday, he expressed the hope that he'll be able to work together with Republicans and Democrats, and that the next Congress will be as supportive for Ukraine as current Congress. And so I really hope very much that the results are good for Ukraine, because the things could be worse if too many far-right Republicans were elected, but this did not happen. It seems that there will be maybe about the same number. If you think now there are 57 far-right guys in the House, there will be about the same 57, maybe even less. And with regard to Senate, we still don't know results, and likely the results will be known in December, when there will be runoff round in Georgia.
And we really hope here in Ukraine that the support from the United States of America will be the same as we had before. One more question, Mr. Fizer. A few words about Russian nuclear threats. Before the elections, the U.S. President Joe Biden often said that in case a Russian military decides to use a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine, the response from Washington will be very harsh. Will this remain unchanged after the elections?
Yes, I'm absolutely sure this will remain unchanged. And because President Biden repeated that several times, and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he also repeated that several times, even using very strong words, because several times he said that there will be absolutely catastrophic consequences for Russia if Russia will do that. So, and we know now that Jake Sullivan had some consultations with Patrushev and with Ushakov, Putin's foreign policy advisor, and then it's clear, because when Sullivan said before that what will happen if Russia uses nuclear weapons, it was deliberate to the highest levels of Russian government, and now it's clear how it was delivered. So this will not change. I believe that absolutely this cannot change.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for all the help we have from the United States of America. And thank you, Mr. Eisenberg, for joining us today. Yuriy Eisenberg, professor of University Manhattan College, New York. So, as we heard, the United States of America, Volodymyr, will still help us as they did it before.
Yeah, it's really good to hear, but let's get back to the European continent. Will the election process affect much of the European Union?
Well, I must say, Volodymyr, that it is not as bad as we thought. Europe exhaled with relief amid a weak Republican result in the elections to the United States Congress. European officials were most worried about efforts aimed at isolating Russia and reducing aid to Ukraine's army. Experts warned that the next 2 years could still be very difficult for US-European relations. Even though a Republican wave may not appear this year, Europeans know that the end of Trump and Trumpism has not yet arrived. Therefore, they must draw up plans accordingly. In recent weeks, many European observers have projected that the GOP would easily take control of both chambers of Congress, but it didn't happen. So I must say, Volodymyr, that Europe in general supports us in our rightful fight against Russian aggression, and they provide us with all the necessary humanitarian, financial and military assistance we need. Some countries give us more, and these countries are mostly those situated in the eastern part of Europe, because people living there know what it means to live under the Russian oppression, occupation, and they know quite well what to do in this situation. Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas, let's hear what she says.
Of course, we have to continue the military support to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. We see that the breaking point could be close. We have to put all the pressure on Russia politically, economically, by sanctions. And what we also have to do is to see how we can use the freezed assets that we have from Russia in Europe so that we could use them for the benefit of Ukraine.
And as I've always said in this part of the program, together we will win, because we have this support and we have this help from the European countries and from the United States of America. So this is all for today. More next week. And now back to you, Volodymyr.
Thank you so much, and see you next week. That was Yuriy Fizer, our global news editor. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends, and analytics on all about Ukraine. Like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, proposals, and comments, contact us via email.